intentions and distractions while mastermind Genesis. Yeah, wanna take it, Bear?
Yeah, thank you. Intentions. Yeah, just excited to go through our first sprint planning. I think it's gonna be a really interesting exercise. Yeah, just looking forward to that. Um, Distractions. Nothing at the moment. I'm completely focused. I'll pass it on to Juanca.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to check out how you are doing. On my side, I just want to say that um, the Graviton online course is ready, and that we will be engaging in an outreach and communication strategy starting from the 1st of June. But that I am very happy that this is going to be like a free course for the public good, talking about all of the things that we want to share. And nothing, just to let you know that any retweet, any support for people getting into the trading is like super welcome, and that somehow um, it's also good because we are a project from the TEC and that we are bringing value to the ecosystem. That's like all that I wanted to say. And my distraction is that I will be preparing lunch in like starting to prepare lunch in like 20 minutes. I'll pass it to Tam.
I have no distractions, and intentions are to have a very exciting, fun sprint planning. And I'll pass to Nate.
Yeah, intentions to go through the sprint planning, get some updates on the status of wrapping up the Gitcoin grant program, and current distractions, none. I'm just having coffee, so I'll pass it over to Joseph if you go. And by the way, congratulations, Juan. It's really awesome.
Yeah, intentions. Yeah, just want to add. Yeah, basically, catch up with the sprint. See what we're going to be doing for the sprint. See what I've added some tasks to the sprint as well, and see where I can plug in for other people's tasks within what they've added. Distractions. Just packing for my travel tomorrow. I'll pass it back to you, Isaac.
Cool, thanks. And yeah, congratulations, Juanca. And so I guess let's get started right away. Um, Today is our first sprint planning, proper sprint planning. I would say we've done some kind of planning before. This is probably the first time we are prepared to do it properly. With all the other parts of the Scrum setup. Before we start, just a few notes. If you noticed, or if you don't, our calendar has changed a bit. So from now on, we won't have the Thursdays meeting. Tuesdays is going to be one Tuesday the sprint planning. The following one is going to be a regular team meeting. And lastly, this week didn't happen, but the same week we have the sprint planning. We're going to have retrospective as well. So just so that you guys know and are aware of all the changes, I've mentioned them a few times before, but just to have everyone on the same page.
Isaac,
yeah.
can I say, could that be reflected also within the Discord events channel as well? If that too much to ask?
No. That's automatic. They should be updated
Okay, cool.
with this Google Calendar. Yeah. Okay. Now moving on to the planning. So and just by the way, we also have all that information in this table, like the meeting, links to agendas, purpose of each meeting, and the day and time. In here, we we're going to start with some, I guess, understanding of the sprint planning. Um, Probably what we are going to do is on every sprint have someone different read this once. I remember Gideon used to do something similar with sample reading the mission at the beginning of every meeting. For this first one, I'll do it myself. And so the reason behind sprint planning. Um, the successful use of Scrum depends on people becoming more proficient in living five values: commitment, focus, openness, respect, and courage. This is a quote from the Scrum Guide. Um, I think it's very useful that we keep in mind. And now on to sprint planning itself. Why is this sprint valuable? So the product owner proposes how the product could increase its value and utility in the current sprint. The whole Scrum team then collaborates to define a sprint goal that communicates why the sprint is valuable to stakeholders. The sprint goal must be finalized prior to the sprint planning. Then what can be done this sprint? And throughout discussion with the product owner, the developers, in our case a team, select items from the product backlog to include into the current sprint. The Scrum team may refine these items during this process, which increases understanding and confidence. Selecting how much can be completed within a sprint may be challenging. However, the more the team knows about their past performance, their upcoming capacity, and their definition of done, the more confident they will be in their sprint forecasts. And three, how will the chosen work get done? For each selected product backlog item, the team planned the work necessary to create an increment that meets the definition of done. This is often done by decomposing product backlog items into smaller work items of 1 day or less. How this is done is at the sole discretion of the team. No one else tells them how to turn product backlog items into increments of value. Um, all this was taken from the Scrum Guide. I'll probably make some small changes over time to have a language that's more appropriate to this particular team. And well, we have chatted a bit about all of these, but I think it's important to remember why, how we do sprints, and that, just as Tam has said multiple times, we will get more comfortable and we will make better decisions with time. It's pretty much the whole idea of agile is to improve over time, um, in an easy way, in a fast way. And yeah, that's all. I guess just before jumping to the task board, I'll see if there's any questions with regard to how we're going to do the planning, or maybe I should explain a bit more.
I just have one question. Is that Notion, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you
Uh,
share to that Notion, please?
sure. 1 second. Notion. The only bad thing about Notion is that it's a bit uncomfortable to share stuff, um, unless we pay for all members. But you should, let me see. I'll add you here, and you should be able to see everything. Try now and let me know. Okay, cool. Um, right. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go in circles, each one of us, just to chat about what we want to get done and look at everything that's on the board to make sure it reflects the work. And after we've gone to the first round, then we'll come back to the backlog and make sure that the things that we consider are relevant are have an owner. And I guess that's where this sort of negotiation kind of thing comes in. Cool. Um, does anyone wants to start with the work they want to get done this sprint?
Sure, yeah, I can start. Um, I created 2 tasks under the what's it called? Internal projects, I think, or internal operations, something like that. One of those, it was like coming up with a new compensation model, and the other one is working on role tiering model as well, kind of like a structure to reorganize roles and divide them by kind of like levels, or entry levels, medium levels, or more like high level type of roles. Those are the 2 tasks I added. Um, in parallel, I'm also working on the who we are task. That's like the document I shared the other call. There's still some more work to do on that front in regards with feedback from team members, and also signing the coordination team agreement at some point. I don't think there are clear dates for that yet. It's kind of slow, and it also kind of like relates with the compensation model. So there are still some questions that need to be answered. But there's that, and also the grantee feedback form that I've also been working on. That one's there. Still needs to get finalized into the proper actual Google form, and there should be that. So yeah, I think I had one question, Isaac. So for this coming sprint, what are the dates for it? Is it starting like today or tomorrow, or what are the exact dates?
Yeah, sorry. So this current sprint number 3 starts today. Oh, I think I has dates wrong. It starts today and ends the 12th of June, which and then the 15th starts the next one. But yeah, starts today.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so there's that. I don't know if this is also, I guess, a question if we should also add like tasks related with the roles that we have. Probably not. I would assume, like, like payments, stuff with the budgets, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if we should add it, but that's also some of the work I'm gonna be doing this sprint. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
I would say that's probably a bit more up to you to add those things if you feel that's better to have them tracked. But I wouldn't say they are necessary. Like there's a fine line between what we have to track and whatnot. But there's a few things that are really recurrent in explicit parts of each of us each of our roles, and maybe it doesn't make sense to track every little thing. But if you wish to add compensation, like sending out payments and things like that, I think it's fine. Or I'm also curious to know what do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I'd love to weigh in. In general, there's a bunch of things that you do that, I would lean towards adding the things, finding the right category to add things that happen in your sprint that is maybe more operational than project based. So it's something that you might be doing every week or every sprint or every month, and finding a place to put that and maybe a tag for that as well. I think it's helpful when you look at your full sprint to see the full load of what you have going on that week. And when you leave those things out, it can make it can look unbalanced actually. But then there's certain things that attending calls, these kinds of things, those are, I think, can be assumed. and maybe attend the sprint planning this sprint or attend the retrospective. That level of detail I think is implicit in being in part of your role in participating in the TEC and doesn't necessarily need to be added. Facilitating the Scrum events, so that there's a piece of work with facilitating the Scrum events, setting up the agenda, preparing for it, doing any of the post-event tasks that have to be done. So other than maybe the person who's facilitating, I would probably not add those meetings to the sprint board. Does that help, Bear?
Yes, yeah, I think so. Like you were talking about like this place where we could have like these sort of like activities. Like I'm thinking right now, I think that place is like the actual roles, because in each role, like we have like a list of the activities that are happening like on a recurring basis, like every month, that should always be covered. So I don't know if that would be enough, or would it still make sense to have them there in the roles and also here as part of the sprint? That'd be kind of like my question still.
Yeah. I mean, one way that we could do that is to have when we have the responsibilities of each role outlined, well, I think we have it already, adding one simple task for that role assigned to the person, and inside that task are their responsibilities on whatever cadence. Those are like, the payments is once a month, but the facilitating the Scrum events is twice a month, etc. Just so it shows up on the board without having it to be a lot of work to manage, just so that it's present and people are aware.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes sense perfectly. We can work it out that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of these roles. There's a big part of that work that's covered under the role responsibilities. That should be reflected on the sprint board as well.
Yeah,
okay.
That makes total sense. You wanna add yours while we are doing the planning, or maybe after? Like I can also help you there if you want.
Yeah, I might do them after, or if you wanna help me do that, that's also cool, because I'm in my phone right now. So yeah.
Well, that's fine. We can chat up more about them as I can. I'll just make sure we don't forget about them. And I'll decide a blanket one. And when I see that one, I remember about the others. Okay, cool. Do you want to pass it to someone else?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say whoever feels ready to take on this. I don't know, Nate, Joseph.
Yeah, I can go next. So I forgot to assign it to myself, but if you go to the no assigned, yeah, the top three with regards to planning for the next round. So having a content calendar for grants round, kind of improving on improving on what we done before. So that's one of them. The second one is having a promotional, having a landing page for our Twitter Spaces. So because definitely looking at statistics and also other things, having a separate Twitter space for each individual project in regards to time with promotion, scheduling, and everything like that didn't really work out with regards to people actually joining the space. So I think I'm suggesting having obviously with more planning and stuff, having let's say two times a week or once a week we have Twitter spaces, and we tell all the grant proposees in advance, and we have like a page to where we set the dates about when we're going to have these spaces. So if a lot of proposers can't make, let's say, the first week or the second week, they can make the third week or the fourth week, if that makes sense. And then on that page once we've had those Twitter Spaces, we can put the link to the recording for those Twitter Spaces on that page, so that we can funnel people to whoever's missed, whoever couldn't join the Twitter Space at the time, to go back and listen, and then therefore we can actually have links to the project themselves, and it can be worked and promoted that way. So I added that, and then oh yeah, I know we created one for the last round, but it was a grants round portal. So what I meant by that is just having a landing page where we can send everyone to, which has all the key dates from when we're actually going to start, when proposers can actually start submitting reviews, like those kind of key dates. Just a simple page that has those key dates. It doesn't need to be anything too explanatory if it doesn't need. And then we can also funnel people to that, when necessary. And then yeah, so those are the three things that I kind of propose for like the next sprint in preparation for the next grants round. And then yeah, I'll plug into anyone else's task that may need support in relation to comms, or it's research, or whatever the case may be.
Cool. Sounds good overall. A few minor comments. I'm not sure if we are ready to start with the grants round number 2. So maybe like there's a lot of things we aren't even sure about, like dates and stuff like that. Something maybe that may be helpful for us now, and probably makes sense to have on this current sprint, is as part of finishing the first round. I'll just make it very, very quick. Is to update the grants portal to reflect, just to like say a cleanup, to maybe have some information about the results of the round and things like that. That maybe you can probably help out with right now in this sprint. And then for the next one, more than anything, I just need to get on the same page with Gideon about things, because I'm not sure he's planning to do, or he wants us to do any grants work, like just right now, Then I guess for communications, and here it's kind of a question both to you, Joseph, and Tam. I don't really know how to handle communications, because I know you do work for it, but I also don't want to track every single tweet, So is there like, I don't know, like a bucket of things, like a strategy or something that you want to accomplish with comms this sprint?
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. With regards to this sprint, I'm going to be creating the comms report for May. So that's, taking in statistics with, total tweets, number of people that started following us, and all of that type of things. And then also, I think it's an ongoing task, which is, like community outreach. So I'm trying to create and communicate with other people, other entities within the space, so that we can coordinate more Twitter Spaces to talk about other things token engineering related. So I'm in current talks with the Sunrise DAO with regards to having a Twitter space about token based DAOs and which ones are the best ones and stuff like that. So I would say, let's say partner outreach could be another task, and then the other task within communication is just day-to-day standard, replying to any tweets that we may be mentioned in, and then also with regards to that kind of falls under the greeter role, but keeping up constant communication with people within Discord, and supporting the SPI initiative with regards to hosting Twitter Spaces and all of that type of stuff.
Okay, those sound good. I just wonder if there's anything like more specific that we can because I'm just worried that with the, like for those things, it's just hard to know when, like the definition of done is just hard because they're so ongoing and they're just So maybe I'm thinking that and probably we can chat a bit more about that later. But maybe I'm thinking that for the tourist spaces and things like that, we just frame it as a project where you say, "Hey, I want to do two tourist spaces with partners every sprint," and that's something that you can actually deliver. And maybe not always because you depend on partners to be available, but that's like a clear definition of something to deliver. Does that sound good? Okay. Um, I'll just put something a placeholder here, and then we can work together to have it to clear the details. Do you want to pass it to? Well, there's pretty much just Nate left, and Tam I know has a small task in here as well. Um, does either one of you want to go first?
I'll let Nate go first. If you're ready, Nate. Otherwise, I'll hop in because it is just one small thing that I put on the board yesterday with
Yeah.
NT Isaac.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Okay,
you.
go ahead, Tam. If it's just one small thing, just knock it out.
Okay, cool. So I talked about this, I want to say back in February or March, this idea of a TEC advisory network. And this is something that I was very excited about and then got very, very busy with some common stack work. And this is something that I'd like to get moving this sprint. So I added it as one of the issues in the sprint board. And I'm also super excited about how it fits into place with the larger coordination team and strategy.
Also, is this sprint 3?
Yeah. So sprint one, uh, we sort of treated the whole month of grants as a sprint one kind of thing. Sprint two was the last one we tried to make, and then we had like a week or two of just making sure everything was fine, and now we come back in with the third.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go and adjust the issues that I have. As you can see, most of my tasks for this sprint are centered around communications and documentation for the grants program. One of the things that I have, one of the things that we need to do as a group is kind of come to, like, I feel like we've had discussions around the grants program, but we haven't really been able to sink our teeth in kind of this retrospective of the ins and outs of the grants program, what it means, and whether it's a good fit moving forward. One of these big questions is exactly like where are we at in the development area, like in terms of grants. Are we funding small programs on the discovery side of the phase, or are we trying to continue funding for larger projects? And I think there are a lot of like ins and outs of these questions that need to be defined before any type of documentation can be you know developed, and it's something that I want to get a meeting on. So grant retrospective and design is something that I'm going to put into this sprint to kind of inform that. Outside of that, I have the PGF docs and Notion, the hypersearch communication, the closing blog post for the round, and the forum update. The forum update is another one where we'll definitely need advice and clarity on the way the grants program is going to move forward and how it relates to governance within the TEC in general. So, yeah. Is there anything else? One other question I had for Tam is I have my entire different sprint planning with the curation group in the SDI, and I don't know is it good to bring any of that in here, or is it okay to just bifurcate that?
I mean, I think it's great if you're already rolling with the sprint planning in that group. to keep rolling with it in that group, and it doesn't necessarily all need to be merged into one large sprint. It's nice for each of the separate autonomous groups to plan their own sprints independently.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And in terms of timing and the forum, communications to the external stakeholders, this is something I keep going back and forth on because I don't want to give an incomplete picture, but I also, don't want to leave them hanging without any type of communications for what our plans are in terms of immediate short term. But I also don't want to give them not enough information to give a full picture of what we're doing. And so this is something that I think this is a decision on timing, whether it should be in this sprint or I should put it in the backlog for a future sprint when we have more clarity on the future of the grants program.
Um, yeah, yeah. I was going to just ask about same overall, like, um, let's see. So I think there's I guess the question here is how we prioritize these, because I'm not sure you would be able to deliver all of them like in these 2 weeks. And so, for instance, um, the the two that are like the most important are already in progress anyways are the blog post and the hypercerts. So I already added them to the sprint. Um, I guess then the next one would be this one about the process of the public goods funding strategy. I think that's important. And this one comes even before the forum update in the documentation. So I guess now the question is, first, do you think you can take more than these three? And if so, probably makes sense to have it be the retrospective. Um, and if you can take even more, then the forum update and leave the documentation as the last one, because it's probably a task to have competing with all the others. So right now it's more up to you if you want to take more.
Uh, yeah, I think that if we can schedule a meeting during this sprint to actually have, maybe the stewards or even, just big stakeholders who can advise on this process, because I do think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered in how we move forward with the grant program that we haven't addressed yet. And I would like to set up kind of a discussion framework, some exercises to actually explore that, uh, so that we can have some clarity when, our communications to our external token holders and for informing the next grant rounds if we choose to have them. I just, I think that we don't have a lot of clarity on it. I think we're, at this moment in time, we're looking at what we did and saying, let's just copy and paste for round two. And we'll have a 20K grant size, and that'll be great. But I still think there are a lot of questions that we haven't asked ourselves in terms of, was this allocation of funding that we had impactful for token engineering? Are there other alternatives that we can explore for the grant round, using the same technology and same format and function, but kind of different approaches towards how we do it and implement it. I think all of these things should be discussed more in depth, and if we're going to have some clear narrative and clear message to token holders and people who are interested in looking for grant funding in the future, since we don't have conviction voting available, and we're shifting TAL voting to more of a community oriented grant allocations and operations budget focus. So I just think that having that clarity around the grants program and knowing exactly what we're doing, exactly what we're implementing, and how we're going to do it is something that the people who are interested in these grant rounds deserve to know. So yeah, I think I want to schedule that, and then I think it will form the rest of the work that I'm doing with it.
Can I jump in?
Please.
I have some, yeah, cool. I am, my understanding, and maybe this is one approach that you can consider using. My understanding is that we are sort of consolidating agreement around the idea of using quadratic funding on Gitcoin grants for the next, let's say, 2 to 3 quarters, 2 to 4 quarters, and not having direct grants through the common pool allocated. And perhaps one way, and if that's the case, or the common pool will be on a case-by-case basis. If that's the case, what I would probably suggest is writing out like the problem statement and then writing out the solution and then using that as like the foundation for doing some advice process and then coming up with a communication that we communicate. I think it's probably okay if we say for the next 2 to 4 quarters, it's unlikely that a vote will pass to directly fund from our common pool. So we're not encouraging that. And we're going to continue to support token engineering projects through the Gitcoin mechanism by quadratic funding. And I think that's just how it will be, unless I don't think we have any other alternative. Is that not correct, Nate?
No, yeah. My question was centered around like how clear of the message, like keeping it broad and vague of saying, hey, we're going to have these rounds for the next quarters, and this is how much it's going to be, or I mean, is that enough communication in terms of what we're planning for the token holders to be satisfied, or to satisfy that type of?
I think we can write down the communication and see. Hey,
Okay.
Hey guys, we are going to be very conservative for the next 2 to 4 quarters. We're only funding grants through quadratic funding. That's going to be our main process to fund projects. And we can't stop anyone from proposing a vote, but it's very unlikely that the token holders will pass any funding that comes out that goes directly to the common pool, to TAO voting. It's very unlikely, so I wouldn't encourage anyone to do it. And if somebody wanted to do it, they have every right to write something on the forum post and to explain why they think that they are the exception and should have some exceptional measure. If they can advocate to have enough token holders fund their project, then that's the way the DAO works. Does that make sense? But I wouldn't encourage people to do that because I don't think the sentiment is to directly fund projects through TAO voting.
Yeah, and so like one of the things is like that we discussed was having kind of themed rounds, and whether somebody who is outside of that themed round would have to wait 2 or 3 quarters to apply for a grant versus or do we take an approach where we had this time where all token engineering projects are welcome, and we have the set criteria of just general application for getting into the round. I just think the details of how we implement it has a lot to do with the the messaging that we give to the public about how to go about funding their projects.
Yeah, I don't know that. I think the communication coming faster is more important than having all the details right.
Okay, yeah, that's all. Yeah,
In this case, yeah. And then maybe if we, we can decide what to do later. But I think just letting people know the basic information ASAP. That okay, we're turning off conviction voting. We're not funding directly to projects anymore. We're using this mechanism to conserve the common pool budget and to still advance token engineering while we focus on this. I think we can construct a pretty simple, understandable message around that in particular, and then advice process it and see what comes up. But I think I was feeling like that was the direction we were headed toward.
Yeah. Just to chime in as well, I think these are two separate problems that are two separate projects that within them are also have their own steps. So, for example, how I'm thinking about the public goods funding strategy. First, what we probably would need to have is a document we can share more than anything internally for the team, but also for the I guess most direct stakeholders like TAM, Juanca, Grief, etc. for some feedback. And then instead of if that's okay with you, but probably what should be done is more of a snapshot slash cultural after say the document that you present is accepted internally, then we ask token holders to sort of ratify it. And in the document, it's more like the high level strategy of what we want to do. And then once accepted, we move into the retrospective and design, which is part of the grants round two, instead of a finishing piece of the first one, where we sit down and based on all the feedback and input of from stakeholders on the high level, we can design something that's proper, but at the same time we didn't overpromise so that we have the option to iterate and improve things in the different rounds, if that makes sense. Um, so with that said, in terms of priority, I would say that besides closing this first round with the hypersearch and the blog post, the first thing would be to have the document. Once that's ready, we run it on the cultural proposal, and then we start with the second round. Is that cool?
What needs to have a cultural approval?
Maybe the strategy. I'm thinking I'm not sure if we should go as far as having a snapshot, but I have the feeling it's sort of the right way because it's a big decision,
Can
a big
I
cultural decision.
maybe bring up, so that decision was actually, from my perspective, part of the decision to turn off conviction voting. So because conviction voting was the way that people requested direct funding, and we've decided to turn it off, we're now explaining the way people can request funding. Does that make sense? So I think the communication should be a result of an action. And the action of conviction voting isn't going to exist, and here's how we're going to do funding now, are in fact intertwined.
Makes sense. I don't really have a strong opinion of whether it's a cultural proposal or just an update. Can't really like that. Um, and
Yeah,
so
what do you think, Nate? Sorry, I don't want to hijack this sprint
yeah,
planning call with this, but what, just to hear what you think, Nate.
Um, I I think it's yeah. I think it was already implied within the original vote of this. I don't think there's much cultural signaling that we need to do, and I think bogging it down with that type of you know discussion space might cause more problems, more headaches than it does solve anything. So I don't know. I think we move forward with it with what we have. I have concerns about like saying exactly what we're gonna move on to the next round, but do we have dates for that yet? Like, do we have an idea of when we want to schedule these quarterly rounds?
But that,
I have no
but isn't
idea.
that a
Just
Gitcoin decision? That's not, when Gitcoin has the rounds, we don't control. Are those the dates that you mean?
no.
We,
Well,
I think we can control the rounds is when we do the rounds.
yeah. So this is part of what we have to chat with Gideon, or I have, or I don't know. We just have to make the decision because to stay with Gitcoin, there's a minimum matching pool requirement, and Gideon seems to be wanting to go more on the safer side and have a lower budget. And if that's the case, we can do it on our own. The question is if we want to keep rolling with Gitcoin. That I'm not sure what's the answer. So I'm not sure either what's the date or roughly. But if it's quarterly, it should be in 2 months and a half, something like that. We'll have to see. Um, yep, Tom.
I just, how one of the one of the feedback I have about Gitcoin rounds in general is it just seems like once one ends, then another one starts. And it's a lot of work to do from a project side, also from a donator side. And I just was wondering, is it, what is the work effort on our part to run these rounds every quarter? And that's probably something we should factor into the decision of how many times per year we do it.
Yeah, I also think that, when it comes to if we do have the flexibility of setting our own dates with the grant rounds, I think the cost of, facilitating a round, they made pretty simple. I think as long as the projects have their own profile set up to where they can just submit to particular rounds when they emerge, I think that is the idea behind it. Although I don't know the effectiveness of it or how much work they have to put into it. It's something to consider. But another thing to consider, in my opinion, would be the value of having our own independent grant round that's not drowned out by a bunch of other different rounds, or whether that's actually a benefit where you have everybody focusing on this kind of collective grant round where you have multiple rounds. I do think that the attention was spread really thin this first iteration of it, where everybody had open rounds for grant funding. Because I think there are a lot more rounds and a lot more projects within each of those rounds. And so there's a larger donation choice for people. And so I'm not sure what the benefits are there, but these are the kind of details that I do think that we have to really delve into in order to compare them.
If I may interrupt just very quickly, we have just 10 minutes left. I, I, we have to set up a time to chat about grants because it's very important. And I would love if we could continue chatting about that, but I think it's probably best if we try to move on. And if we have time, or if any of you want to stay a bit longer, then we can chat about the grants program. Is that all right?
Just really quickly, I think I think Nate was saying what he was saying. It's a good idea to maybe schedule a call during this sprint to talk about this more than maybe just a few minutes today, because it might be probably a good idea to have also Gideon present and everyone who's interested, so we can actually spend the time to talk about it.
Yeah, we can see if next week or on a separate call to chat about that.
I agree. Can I just throw one thing in? I also think that we can communicate the change of direction, the change of source for funding without having all the details. That's all I want to say, is that we can also communicate that this is what we're doing, and we'll tell you more when we know more. We have to figure a bunch of stuff out still.
Yeah, right. Gideon's idea for the strategy was just to have something that's high level, and then the specifics come from each project. So, like on a grants round, we would have the specifics of that specific grants round, and etc. etc. Um, I guess let me ask you, Nate. These three tasks seem enough workload for you in this current sprint?
Yeah, that combined with the curation service and the SPI workload with the other groups that's capacity for me.
Okay. Cool. And so I think the last one is me. Well, Marathon mine as well, but he's not here. We'll have to see. Um, so for me, I have I have a few. This one this one is actually done. So for this sprint, I don't want to get done. I want to get up the proposal to buy some stake ether. I think it's very very important for us, and also a really good opportunity. Um, and most of my work is around project work, and so I have the guarantee payouts, which is currently blocked. I'm just waiting on Gitcoin. I hope they said they were going to deliver early this week, so I hope that anytime I receive a message saying that's ready, and then these other tasks are about scoping projects and some other stuff, like so scoping projects for the fundraising and the events, but also criteria for work, making a document or something for criteria about work classification, just so that we have a better understanding of what kind of work, or like how do we select the work that's absolutely tracked on this board, or and how do we deal with work that's sort of on the outside, say commons, communications, or work where we depend on other people, or even the SPI and the creation service, like how do we interface with them from a project perspective. That's this one. Um, and then I'm tempted to add another one about just to get the round two started, but I think I'll probably just keep it simple with this, and I wouldn't say it's simple anyways. uh let's just say I feel comfortable with this workload. Yeah, Juanca.
Entity that I just wanna support your idea of investing some of our common pool in ETH or staked ETH. I think like we've seen in the past couple of months and weeks how political decisions also affect the stability of the dollar. And as our common pool is in dollars, if the price of the dollar falls, somehow the stability of the ETH falls. So I think it's a good idea to diversify. Also, thinking on the end of the bear market, and to have like less affectations from centralized decisions from states, and to be more decentralized. And yeah, I fully support this. I don't know how could I help, but if there's anything I can do, I would be happy to move this forward.
Thanks. I'll probably send to you the proposal once it's ready, and just to get some feedback and stuff. um all right, all right. Cool. So seems like this is all we've got. um as far as work. um I guess before finishing my part, is there anything people consider that I should be doing as well? Five, four. Yep.
I have like an idea that I have been sharing for some time, but I don't know if right now is the right like moment or sprint to make it. Maybe it would be better to make it in a strategic sprint. But I would love to make a survey on the community, on like how is the community feeling. I think there would be like very interesting feedback coming out of that survey, and that um, it's also like a way to hear back and engage from the token holders.
That's nice. I added it here. We can see if we have. Um, maybe it makes sense for the next sprint, where we have also the fundraising strategy aligned, and we can make a nice community survey. Um, all right, we have just 2 minutes left. Um, and I think seems like we are done-ish, overall. At least all the people that's here on this meeting, and also part of the team, have clear stuff to work on for this sprint, and seems like it's overall a decent amount of workload. We'll just see how it goes, and then on the next sprint and retrospective, just learn if that was enough, too little, too much, whatever. Um, yeah, was I think I thought I don't know. I feel great about this. I guess just open now this last minute for any other comments. And if any of you want to chat about grants for the next 15-20 minutes, I'm happy to stay a bit longer as well.
I have to hop. Thank you, Enti, for Isaac, for this facilitation today.
Thank you for all the help.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Great work.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye. See you.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, everyone.
Is anyone going to stay? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to stay. I don't know if you're down to talk about it more.
Yeah, sure. I have a few minutes, so I don't mind.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, like, really quickly to the actual grants program. The only question